What's up, Dan Blewett here. Today let's talk about, should pitchers do Olympic style front squats? Should they do the front rack version? So this is an important topic because for lots of young pitchers who are in charge of their own strength training or who are doing high school strength training programs where they might have some flexibility, or if they have an injury history and they're in college and they can talk to their strength coach about it, I think having some idea of what's good for you and what's bad for you is important. And ultimately, all of us as athletes are in charge of our own destiny. So here's what I know about the front rack position, the Olympic front squat. And you can see my elbow, my Tommy John scar right there. This position puts your arm into the valgus position right here. It takes a lot of wrist flexibility to get the barbell up into this position. And it's difficult for a lot of people to properly do a front squat in the front rack position. So at my academy, Warbird Academy, we taught every single player the cross arm front squat grip. It sits in this little notch on your shoulders, and it's arguably more difficult to keep the bar in position. However, when you start to ask yourself as a strength coach, as a parent, as a player, what's the risk versus reward? It gets hard to justify, in my mind, why we have to do the front rack position to do a front squat. So my best, my PR at front squatting was 355. 355 pounds is a pretty heavy front squat. And I did that with a front rack grip. Now it was more difficult because the bar wants to dump, because we have less pushing it and holding it in position. But at the same time, I'm still getting challenged just as much because I have to fight extra hard to keep the bar where it is. Now, I got emails over the years from lots of people in lots of different walks of life, and I got actually a couple different emails from CrossFitters who asked me about Tommy John rehab because they had torn their UCLs from doing repeat hang cleans and front squats over the years. So if that's not an indication that there is stress from this position put through your UCL, then I'm not sure what is. There's definitely people out there injuring their elbows from front squatting that way, from hang cleaning high volumes that way. Now, am I claiming that if you do this and you front squat this way for 3 sets of 10 once or twice a week that it's going to hurt your elbow? No, I'm definitely not saying that it will hurt your elbow. But as we as pitchers are looking for ways to stay healthier, and when we can choose one version versus the other, I'm not sure what the good reasons are for doing this version versus this version. When we know for a fact this isn't hurting your elbow one bit, and this definitely puts some amount of stress through your elbow, I'm not sure why we would have to choose the front rack position. As a strength coach, I had a program for lots of kids over the years, ages 8, 9, 10, all the way up through high school, college, pro. And you always have to ask yourself, is any single exercise worth potentially hurting this person? If they do this high box jump and they miss and they fall down, they hurt their arm or they hit their head, and their parent says, was this exercise absolutely critical for my son or my daughter to get better? The answer is almost always no. There's always some exercise that we probably could have subbed that was maybe safer or easier or more within their skill set or the risk reward that we look for. So if it was a box jump, maybe we just give them a box jump still, but it's like 6 inches below what they can typically make. So there's a pretty good margin for error, margin for safety when they don't do their best or they get a little bit tired. And so with all the heavy volume of throwing, and especially during the season, when pitchers are already putting a lot of stress through their elbow, the question is, why do we want to add a little more stress in the weight room when we have alternative exercises that will put less stress, right? So I know famous strength coach Eric Cressy doesn't like his guys back squatting because it also puts their elbow in the valgus position. And I think that's a reasonable assertion where he's just looking out for guys. Now, again, every player can say, no, I'm okay with the risk. I still want a back squat, or I still want a front rack front squat. And that's their choice to make. But for me, as someone who's lived it both as an injured athlete and as a strength coach, it's just important. The point of this video is just to get you thinking about, is the risk reward important enough where I'm okay adding a little more stress, and I know it and I understand the risks and all that stuff. You can make an informed choice for yourself. As a strength coach or as a baseball coach or softball coach, you can make an informed decision for your athletes just the same. And it doesn't have to be my decision, the same decision that I would make. And just because you say, no, I'm okay with my players doing it this way, doesn't make you wrong, and I'm not going to demonize you for it. But for me, we always chose this for our athletes. I chose it for myself personally, and that's what I believe in, and that's why I'm sharing this today. I think it's a good discussion. And again, if you do front rack or you don't, I still think you need to ask yourself why you would choose a version that definitely puts more stress on your elbow, that CrossFitters and some other athletes have been hurt doing. They have required Tommy John surgery from repetitive motion just in the weight room. Why you'd want to add that on top of your throwing load? These are just good questions, right? So hopefully today's video sparked some thought, gave you a little bit of a new perspective on your training. If you liked it, hit the like button. Check out my other videos. I have a ton on my YouTube channel if you're new here. I have books, I have online courses, lots of stuff to help you as a player, parent, or coach. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.